Some big name wide receivers have seen their fantasy value rise or fall after free agency. But are they fairly priced according to ADP? We're going to play a little game of over-under for wide receiver based on their current draft value. So Chris, let's get into it. Our first wide receiver is Michael Thomas, who is still with the same team, but not with the same quarterback. Drew Brees, we think, is officially retired now. But who's his quarterback going to be, and what do you think this does for his value? Is he fairly valued right now, the wide receiver 9, according to Drafters ADP?
Yeah, this is tough for me. I'm going to go with fairly valued, but if I knew Jameis Winston was a starter, I would say undervalued, because I think Jameis Winston will make him a top 5 wide receiver, because that's just what Jameis Winston does for his wide receivers. But with the uncertainty of whether it will be Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston, I'm going to go with fairly valued. I definitely don't think he's overvalued. I think if anything, he's a little undervalued. But as of right now, fairly valued feels right.
That feels about right. I believe we had him number 8 in our recent wide receiver rankings. So it's hard to say that there's a big difference. Look, when you get to the top 10, you're really splitting hairs. I'm actually going to go with just slightly undervalued, though, because I could see Michael Thomas sliding back into the top 5. And look, not that there's any reason that some of those guys ahead of him will fall, but when you talk about somebody like Thomas versus A.J. Brown, look, we all think A.J. Brown could be a top 5 guy this year. The competition for targets is less there. But even so, look, it's Ryan Tannehill. I know he's been great at quarterback, but I feel like both Winston or Hill at quarterback could produce just as good, if not better, numbers for Thomas. I think we're giving this guy kind of a bad rap because of the injuries last year. If he's healthy, which he should be, I don't think there's any reason why he couldn't produce close to the level he did before. So I think he's a really good value at number 9. I would have him as high as maybe 6 or 7, depending on how the draft goes. All right, so another wide receiver we're going to talk about is a free agent that just signed, maybe with not the team that everybody wanted. That's Kenny Golladay to the Giants. So this obviously hurts his value compared to last year, but at wide receiver 23, do you think that that's still solid value for him?
No, I don't. I think he's overvalued. I think people are going to look at the name, look at what he did in Detroit, and think this is a great value for him. But I'm sorry, this is a terrible situation for him. Daniel Jones he is who we think he is. He's not a very good quarterback. A lot of people are trying to make the comparison. Oh, Josh Allen was Stephon Diggs. Josh Allen was already a top 10 fantasy QB when Stephon Diggs came into Buffalo. Okay, Daniel Jones is not that. This is an offense that's going to want to focus on the run. They're going to want to play slow. They're going to lean on that defense. I think this is nothing but bad for Kenny Galladay's value. I will not be drafting him this early, that's for sure. I think he's overvalued.
So in terms of value, you've got to figure out, well, okay, what is relative to that spot? Like, what would you take instead of him? But if you talk about a guy like on the Pittsburgh Steelers who just signed, JuJu Smith-Schuster, and would you rather have him? No. If you talk about some of the guys on questionable offenses that, like DJ Chark in Jacksonville, do we really know what that, situation is going to look like? Not really. I feel like at least with Golladay, we know we've seen him do it before and be a prolific receiver. Look, Daniel Jones isn't the best quarterback. I get that, but Golladay is going to be the number 1 target there for sure. And there's not a lot of number 1 receivers you're going to get outside the top 20. So I'm going to say he's a little undervalued because I actually think his draft value will keep falling and it'll get to the point where he actually is a good return on investment. All right, so I just mentioned JuJu, and we're all disappointed that he didn't go somewhere to be the guy. He's going to be the number 3 receiver. I don't know what's going to go on in Pittsburgh, but we know that we don't like it because we didn't like what we saw last year. He was a big disappointment. Is he just going to disappoint again back in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I think he is. He's overvalued. Going as wide receiver 31. And if you look at the wide receivers being taken right around him, you have Odell Beckham, Tyler Boyd, JuJu, and then Courtland Sutton. I would much rather have Beckham, Boyd, or Sutton over JuJu. He's going to be the 3rd option on this team. He's nothing but a slot receiver now who runs his little 5 A-dot routes. Very touchdown dependent. I know he wasn't horrible last year, but I think a lot of that was because he was saved by touchdowns. I'm just not drafting JuJu in this spot right now. I just think, like I said, there's better guys around him that you could take. I think he's overvalued.
So here's the thing with JuJu, kind of like with Golladay, I feel like the disappointment is going to kind of spill over into his ADP. He's going to, at the very least, stagnate, if not fall more. Wide receiver 31 for a guy that we once thought would be one of the top receivers, at least for Dynasty, one of the best receivers to have. You know what? There's not a lot of guys after him who I think deserve to be ahead of him. There's some guys that I've kind of questioned. Look, as much as we were disappointed, JuJu was actually 9th in the league last year in receptions per game, was 6.1. Look, I get that came with maybe 7 yards, but still, I think that he'll do a little bit better. You know, last year was not very good, but I don't feel like he's going to get worse. I feel like he's got that comfort level. You know what? Big Ben maybe isn't what he used to be, but let's not forget that offense was pretty good for the first half of the year until who knows what, and the wheels fell off. So I feel like wide receiver 31, I mean, for a wide receiver 3, there's really not a lot of guys I would take over him. So I think it's still a fair price. And then our last receiver we're going to talk about is someone who did switch teams, and that's Will Fuller going to the Dolphins. Look, we know that if he had gone to the Packers, then his ADP would have risen by about 20 spots. But the Dolphins, not the most exciting offense these days, at least to some people. Chris, do you think this helps or hurts his value? And do you think 34 is reasonable?
No, I think this, I mean, you got to think this hurts his value. He went from quite possibly one of the best situations he could be in to, I'm not going to say it's a terrible situation. I think it's a better situation than if he would have gone to the Giants with Daniel Jones, because I do think Tua is a good quarterback. The question here is, will this offense, will the coaching staff open up the game plan for Tua, or are they going to keep him as a game manager, lean on the defense like they did last year? Because, you know, in Houston, Deshaun Watson, we know he can fling it. We know he's a great quarterback. Again, it was a perfect situation for Will Fuller. Now he's going to a team. Devontae Parker is there. Preston Williams will be back healthy. You got to think, how much is he going to be involved? Is he going to be the number 2, the number 3? How many deep shots are they going to really take with Will Fuller? I don't see how this is better for Will Fuller in any way. So once again, I got to say he's overvalued at wide receiver 34.
A lot of overs there. Look, this is tough for me, obviously, as a Dolphins fan. I want to say he's just going to do great and have a career year. I do think, look, a lot of people are going to be surprised to see when Tua actually comes out and shows what he is capable of. So I have no questions about the quarterback situation. I know they're going to open up the offense at least a little bit. Tua is actually a really good downfield thrower. So I feel like Fuller can produce at the same level that he has in Houston. Really, my question is, what are they going to do in the draft? If they get a guy like Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, or somebody in the first round, that's going to eat into his target share. And so that's where I'd say he's probably fairly valued. Right now, I think he's undervalued, but I do think that at some point we're going to have to be a little more realistic, or at least I am, about what he's going to produce, you know, each and every week. All right, we're going to do this exercise every week or so, and we're going to talk about different positions, try to get a sense of who you should be drafting where. Join us every Tuesday, Thursday. We're going to be mock drafting all preseason long to get you a sense of where to value players. Join us as we have a live stream as well on this very channel. Hit subscribe if you haven't already. And if you want to join us, sign up on that email list. Click on the link below in the description, and you can be part of the Endgame community. Thanks for watching.